Hey everybody, welcome back to You Are Free TV. It is Wednesday, February 21st, 2024, and I'm so glad to be back with you here on the channel. I'll start with my disclaimer. This video is for entertainment purposes only. It is protected by the United States Constitution protecting free speech, as well as the Sullivan Act and reporting. It is not intended to bully or harass anyone, never to give legal, financial, or medical advice. And there are further disclaimers in the description below. And so I'm so glad to be back with you here on the channel. I will start with my plug. I am supported by c60evo.com/YAFTV. Use the code YAFTV for 10% off. If you contribute to the channel, you get 15% off, plus you get entered into a giveaway where 2 bottles are given away to randomly selected supporters of the channel every month. That happens on the 1st of every month. So if you want to support the channel, do it before the end of the month. And what's great about C60 Evo, it gets into your mitochondria and it cleans out your cells at a subatomic level. It's amazing. It gets straight in to doing the dirty work to clean up the mitochondria as we're on full assault with the bio-warfare industry trying to harm us on the cellular level. So it gets in there and it combines with your glutathione and your melatonin, and it drags all of the garbage out of your mitochondria, out of your DNA, and protects your neurons as well. It crosses the blood-brain barrier. It's an amazing thing. So check it out. c60evo.com/YAFTV. Use the code YAFTV for 10% off. All right, did my plug for my awesome sponsor, and now I'm going to get into the news. So we have this really intense situation going on. We're 257 days out from the election, and it's heating up. President Trump announced his short list for who he wants to be his VP. He did that on the Fox News town hall that he did last night. And so we're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about so much more. We're going to get into Julian Assange, and that is going on, a massive litigation trying to get him extradited to the United States. Huge fight there. We all want to support Julian Assange. We're going to talk about that. And of course, multiple things more. We are going to get into today the continuation of the Natural Asset Corporation push that is going on with the easement servitude in the United States, where what looks like not nefarious organizations getting easements onto private lands that will tie them into national asset corporations if that ever does pass through legislation into being part of the New York Stock Exchange and allowing foreign national powers to come in and control our private lands. And so we'll get into all of that. So, okay, let's start with a few things here. We've got Representative Swalwell. Okay, this guy, Bang Bang Swalwell, he now is being exposed, just like the rest of them, the felony, Felony Willis and all of them, getting exposed for hundreds of thousands of campaign financing going into his private coffers for travel, vacations, childcare, high-priced spas. This is the same Swalwell that said, hey, MAGA, we could put out nukes, tactical nukes on you. We could drone you. Okay, very much like how HRC, how Hillary Clinton said, we should drone strike and kill, for entertainment purposes only, Julian Assange. Multiple people involved in this, even Pompeo seems to be involved in this kind of under the cover fire here, that have gone to try to attack Julian Assange for exposing deep state military industrial complex that was everything he did about the Iraqi war, Afghani war, exposing all of the crimes going on there. Well, Julian Assange is fighting for his life right now, and he isn't even able to attend his own trial in England as it's going on the last 2 days, where he is basically too sick to be there because he has been in solitary confinement. He has now been in jail since 2010. And so we're looking at 14 years of basically being alone and trying to survive after trying to expose what was done under huge freedom of speech, incredible journalism of what was going on with the war machine, the deep state players, all of it. That's Julian Assange fighting for his life, and he's deathly ill. So I need you to call your Congress members. You can do that at 202-225-3121, 224-3121 for the Senate. Tell them you want to free Julian Assange. You do not support extradition to the United States. We have all over Italy, he's being accepted as a citizen in Bologna, Naples, and Rome. Of course, Australia wants him back. And this is what's going on here is we're seeing Article 39 being brought up here, where it's the European Court of Human Rights, that they're going to try to ask the European Court of Human Rights to stay the case and investigate and prolong it. We have, I believe, his wife coming to D.C. next week. His dad, John Shifton, has been doing heavy lifting, trying to expose everything that's going on. There is a documentary coming out about him that I will also bring up soon. I think it's called The Trustful. But I need to get more about that. But I will try to link it below. It's not available here in the United States. His dad did a great documentary a year ago that has been available. I'll try to link them both below. But basically, Julian Assange exposed the deep state, exposed all the WikiLeaks, Hillary Clinton, everybody. Hillary Clinton calling for him to be drone striked. Mike Pompeo seconding that. This is very interesting as we see Hillary Clinton coming back into the fray out of nowhere with Christina Amanpour, the UN spokesperson, the total liar, who basically, has lied for entertainment purposes only a lot in her career. Well, basically, HRC with Amanpour saying that Trump's planning a military dictatorship, et cetera, et al. The new poll that has come out recently, independent, it's not even partisan, showing that Trump will get 312 delegates in a massive landslide in this next election. And so they are terrified of this happening. They're terrified of Trump winning, and they know that we are the dream team. We have everybody on our side, that everybody, they kind of pushed us all together with COVID, with the awakening, with the stealing, with the weaponizing of government. They've pushed all the best people together to fight the New World Order, to fight globalism. It's happening right now at CPAC today, and we're going to talk a bit about what's going on at CPAC today. International presence there majorly to try to connect international populist movements with the populist movement here in America. And so we're going to get into that in a second. And so even though we had Trump endorsing the trucker boycott of New York City, and thousands of corporations, huge amounts of corporations announcing that they're not going to do business in New York City. The Shark Tank producer, of course, Kevin O'Leary's coming out and saying New York is a loser state. I'll never put billions of dollars into New York. It's like throwing your money down the toilet. If they can come after Trump for zero crimes of what they're doing with the $355 million judgment plus interest, okay, so now for Trump to even appeal, his case, they would have to make it, they're trying to make it that he would have to pay like a $400 million fine in advance to appeal his case, while Letitia James is coming out and saying, before appeals, if he can't pay this fine, we're going to take all the Trump buildings with the Trump name on them, we're going to take all of the assets, and we're going to steal the assets from Trump. This is asset seizure. This is full communism. And it comes at the same time where Biden's announcing that by Friday, they're going to announce huge new sanctions against Russia because of Navalny's killing, right? while we have Julian Assange, okay, rotting for 14 years, literally on the edge of death, can't even attend his own hearings because he's so ill, and did so much for exposing what contributed to the awakening of humanity. He is sitting there rotting. And so Biden, what does he come and say? Oh, Navalny's killing, who very much looks very much like an MI6 asset and a CIA asset, pushing the Maidon coup, employed by the deep state for entertainment purposes only. And his widow, is he dead? I don't know. Attending the Munich Security Conference, being the big star there, saying I'm going to carry on his work and all of this. Well, kind of a nothing burger there out of Munich, because the big winner there really was J.D. Vance, who did a huge speech saying, you know what, the U.S. is tired of paying for Europe's protection and security, and if you want to protect your countries, you're going to have to pay up. You're going to have to pay up. We don't have pensions in this country. We don't have 6-week vacations. We don't have universal health care. You all have that. If you want security in Europe, well, then pay for it. And that was J.D. Vance, even in the Financial Times, like the most, stable paper, non-controversial paper in the Financial Times, J.D. Vance. And that kind of prompts me into, I'll jump back and forth here, but it does prompt me into Trump's short list for his vice presidents. And it honestly, it makes me a little worried. I'm not thrilled with his short list. I'm kind of I don't know. I think Trump needs to pick somebody who could survive him and continue the America First agenda, the populist coalition that is now going internationally amongst populist countries, which are huge, and we'll see it in CPAC in a moment. But Trump's VP shortlist is Vivek Ramaswamy, Ron DeSantis, Tim Scott, Kristi Noem, Byron Donalds, and Tulsi Gabbard. And literally almost none of them would I choose. And it's kind of disturbing, honestly, that this is his short list for VP, because I can't see one of them that would be able to carry on an America First agenda presidency if Trump were taken out. And I don't mean to say it like that, but it's, we know that they're full bore after President Trump. And if they succeed in killing him for entertainment purposes only, we never ever wish it could happen. But he needs his VP to be fully solid and like somebody who could actually handle the role. And I don't see any of these people as being that person. Vivek Ramaswamy seems to be top polling in this short list, which is very interesting. He's got the youth vote. I really like a lot. He's very well spoken, and Vivek Ramaswamy says all the right things. Okay, but he comes out of Big Pharma. We don't know a lot. He's never served in any position, and I just don't trust him. He has no cred. I don't trust Vivek Ramaswamy to carry on if Trump was removed, okay, in one way or another. Same goes, and then the second one is Ron DeSantis. What? No. Don't even need to talk about it. Never Jesuit Ron. Okay, Tim Scott, South Carolina, again, same thing. He's a great statesman, but stay in the Senate and keep doing what you're doing. Not presidential. Kristi Noem, no, squirrely. She does not. She continuously fails on multiple policies, even though, if she wants to show her cred, then go with Mike Lindell's plan that they're pushing right now in South Dakota, where they only have 6 counties, but they need all 60 counties to be on board for all paper ballots, same-day voting, hand-counted. If she did that, she might win more of my trust. Byron Donalds, he seems the most of the, sort of the chutzpah. He's got the energy there, and as a representative out of Florida, doing good work, great work. Again, not enough experience to hold up for presidential material, and the VP needs to be presidential. We've been stuck with Kamala Harris and that crazy thing. We went through Pence and his, for entertainment purposes only, treasonous activity. And, so there's that. We need somebody bigger. And so then there's Tulsi Gabbard, and she's an interesting person. She, of course, she worked for McKinsey and Company back in the day. She has all of her quirks, and she left the Democratic Party. She's very clear that it's because the Democratic Party is completely run by lobbyist money, and that she won't be part of pushing war, and she's anti-war, and she is a classical liberal. And in lots of ways, she is, really good on what she says. But, she might get the most votes with the Democrats, but will she, if she was president, if President Trump was gone and she had to take over, would you trust Tulsi Gabbard? Does she have the experience? Can she handle it? I don't think so. And so I'm a little bit dismayed about the short list of Trump's presidential candidates. I still would be more like a Carrie Lake person. I do believe Carrie Lake could handle the heavy lifting. What we saw with her outing, the apparatus there in Arizona trying to bribe her to not run for Senate. When we see her doing heavy lifting and fully committed hugely to MAGA and America First, I like Carrie Lake for VP. And I would even say J.D. Vance, who stood up to the entire Munich Security Conference saying that, Europe has to pay its own way going forward in this defense with NATO. You can't just use America as your piggy bank while you sit there and all your citizens are protected with health care and their pensions and their 6-week vacations, while the United States gets none of those, while we're struggling to just buy bread and eggs. Okay, great job by J.D. Vance. And so, those are more my picks. I'd like to hear what you think below if you want to leave comments, because I don't think any of those picks are great. I get it for some of the votes. It could work, and I appreciate that, getting votes is part of getting the election won. However, I think the election's already won. Trump has all the delegates, like he has everything. So, one turn they might try to take here is as Trump just, grabs all the delegates everywhere. He's about to absolutely annihilate it in South Carolina, and Nikki Haley's still hanging on. He's about to absolutely grab South Carolina. And she's just got like millions and millions of more donations. She's going to hang in there till Super Tuesday. We'll see what happens. But, I don't think that anybody is going to vote one way or another based on the VP. Honestly, Trump already has the win. He has the win across the country. The mainstream media is lying. They're lying like, big ass liars. We had, of course, with, what was it? On Fox News last night, on his, when he announced his VP shortlist, we had Laura Ingraham kind of saying, oh, women voters, they don't want to hear about this and that. They want to hear about, just straight up, what are your policies? And basically Trump said, I'm not after revenge at all. I'm gonna go do rallies in the Bronx in New York. I'm gonna go maybe to Madison Square Garden in the next weeks. And, basically, I'm not about revenge. What you call revenge is really only me redoing Success for America. That's my entire plan. It's not revenge. It's actually success. And so he killed it. He did a great job. And it looks like the trucker thing there in New York, the trucker boycott is getting, massively affected by the truckers' pressure. It's getting kind of shut down. Chicago Ray, who was the first guy who kind of put up these big, videos about, shutting down trucking to New York City, He has erased all of his videos, okay, the original boycotter of the New York City trucking. And so, we look at the takeover of all of our industries, and I'm going to get to CPAC in a minute, because it's the situation where this invasion of our country and the allowing in of all of these illegals, they're taking all the trucking jobs. You get massive amounts of Eastern Europeans and Ukrainians and tons of gang activity that are taking over trucking. Okay, and they don't have CBs. They don't talk to the other truckers. Basically, massive threats from gangs around this whole trucking boycott situation. And this is, of course, as Letitia James is saying, that she's going to steal all of Trump's assets in real time before the appeal, that he'll have to pay that $400 million fine, 355 with interest fine in order to even have an appeal. This is this massive weaponization of government, which is always the downfall of every democratic republic everywhere that this happens. And Jonathan Turley, the great constitutional lawyer who worked in the impeachment case against Trump, Jonathan Turley, just respected everywhere, nationwide, basically saying that there's no way that this is legal in any way. It decries every single legal mechanism. There is no way that what Letitia James is doing in New York is in any way legal, and they're going to fight it. But people are saying, oh, Trump could leverage Mar-a-Lago. He could leverage it for probably $600 million. And, really, he's going to have to sell this amazing property that is worth more than any other property in Florida and probably the United States. In order to do this, I don't think he will. I think he will hold out because this is absolute tyranny and criminal behavior by our weaponized Department of Justice. And, when we see Jon Stewart coming out on his show last night saying, Tucker Carlson, he came out and showing that, Russia is so pretty, Moscow is so pretty, they have beautiful, their train system is so safe, and everything looks so lovely. And Jon Stewart saying the price of democracy is ugly and dirty. That it's good, that's okay, it's good that our U.S. cities are so gross and so completely criminal and dangerous that you take your life in your hands riding the subway. That's fine, because that's a price of democracy. So paid off Jon Stewart coming up there and saying, the reason that it's so nice in Moscow is because of Stalin, like 60, 80 years ago. It was Stalin that made it nice, right? It's not that we here in the United States at that time also had beautiful things. We had beautiful cities. We had beautiful infrastructure. And basically, you could travel. I did it a lot myself in New York City. You could travel from here to there without being assaulted, without worrying that you were going to be stabbed or attacked as a white person or any, ethnic, person that you were. No, this is recent. It is disgusting, and it is awful. And so all the propaganda continues. And so I want to get into CPAC for a second here before I move on to talking about what happened with the, I want to get into the the natural asset seizure situation in a moment. But I want to talk about CPAC and what happened today as it launches there in DC. You can still go, I think. I think you can still get $95 tickets, cpac.org. I think if you use the code War Room, you can get it for $95 if you're in driving distance of DC. But what's great about CPAC is that they have an international forum where populists from across the world's governments that are populist, are coming to the United States to help warn the United States of what's going on and to try to help the United States to escape what is the attack of the globalists on the United States and trying to prevent Trump from coming back to office. And so the CPAC International Forum today, they had multiple people there. You had Nigel Farage, of course, who executed Brexit. He was probably one of the first to launch an anti-globalist movement there in the UK to get Brexit going. Nigel Farage was there. He warned against that. He was there in 2012. He came to CPAC 2012. He was the first international leader at CPAC at the time. And he said, we must work together internationally to combat the grave danger that globalism is presenting to the world. He said that religious sectarianism is now massive in the UK, that they have, because of the organized migrant invasion there in the UK, now they're looking at facing in their own parliament in the elections a new radical Islamic party in the UK. And what Nigel Farage warned at CPAC today was that soon the U.S. will be presented with a radical Islamic party if we don't stop it now, if we don't stop this with an America First movement. Because what we're seeing, of course, across the country now, since all of the Israeli invasion, which was obviously planned for entertainment purposes only, carried out and being executed to create this Antichrist system. Well, the U.S. is weaponized through the universities and the migrant factions in different parts of the country, like in Michigan with Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib. We're getting now massive, huge uprisings of Islam in this country. We're seeing Sharia law being enshrined. And like I said yesterday in my last video, this situation of female genital mutilation being hugely protected by doctors doing it in these rogue states. And so Farage said, we're now facing the situation where we deal with radical Islam every second of every day because of the invasion. Now, what we saw out of the Munich Security Conference was that they had a pact that went through the EU with von der Leyen, the slaver family, and out of South Carolina way back in the day, and the father who's the Nazi, created uniforms for the Nazis. So she's saying that, basically this pact is going to go through the EU, where they're going to have anywhere from 70 to 78 million African migrants come into Europe in the next 5 years. And so basically the EU, the European International, the communist Nazi regime out of Europe is wanting an Islamic invasion in Europe because the globalists want to destroy the Christian West. And so, the Judeo-Christian gets in there, but literally who they're coming after at the end of the day, they constantly will do this thing of using the Jewish population as fodder, which is so insane that any Jews would ever support anything to do with globalism. But this fodder is basically to destroy the Christian states. Because the Christian states, with the Golden Rule and with the Constitutional Republic of America specifically, is everything that defies, everything about slavery. We're seeing now in Africa, in Libya, open slave markets. It is happening. It is literally happening now. They have open slave markets in Libya. What did Gaddafi warn? Oh, hey, you kill me, you're going to have the hordes coming through, the Islamic hordes. And it has happened. And now in Libya, we have open slave markets. And these are UN programs, of where people are being trafficked to go to Europe. They go through Libya and also the Congo. They go through and then they are being held, captured, being kept in bags. You have children in bags, basically like a potato sack carried around okay, and sold off for as little as $400. Okay, this is what's going on. And this is what we're promoting if we don't object to globalism and the situation of the migrant invasion, the planned World Economic Forum migrant invasions of the West. And so what do we say? So Farage warned about that. He said that, now it's alive in the UK. It's absolutely taken over. And they can't stop it. And the only way to stop it is through, of course, having massive pushback in a populist way, which is what CPAC is all about there in DC this week. And so we also had Elizabeth Truss there, the former prime minister who barely had a second, there to be prime minister before she was tranched out by these same hordes. And she basically ran on a platform of cutting taxes, reducing the administrative state. Same thing, like deep, rooting out the deep state in the UK after Farage had been so central in getting Brexit to happen and getting the UK out of the European Union, which is the European International. It is run by the same people running Ukraine, running this crazy situation of Jesuits and Jews and Catholics, this whole royal families, all of it, the big money, okay, Vatican, big money, the royals of Europe, big money, and then the Nazi communists, okay, all together in one fell swoop, wanting to steal all the power away from the people of the world, especially the Western world, because they know they can already control the non-Western world. They already have that down. China's got it down. China has built something like 100 new ports in Africa. They're doing massive military exercises, have huge military outposts that they're building throughout Africa. And so it's not Africa that they're worried about. They're worried about the Western world, okay? Europe and the United States, Canada, the Dominions, Australia, New Zealand, all of it. And so, Elizabeth Truss was saying she faced huge backlash from the bureaucratic state that took the policy making away from the elected leaders. She called it quangos, right? And this is quasi-governmental organizations, right? They're basically public-private partnerships that took over the government of England. She cited the Bank of England, and also the weaponization of the judiciary there in England. She said that Tony Blair changed 500 years of government history in the UK in governing by basically, Tony Blair's a big weffer. He's a big, huge, massive globalist, just on the evil spectrum, like, 9.5. And he changed all this, much like, Biden's weaponization of the DOJ with Barack Obama, of course, before him, and Hillary Clinton. Well, same thing there in England, where now the judiciary system there is completely run by unelected officials. And so they're going through the same situation. So here in the U.S., what are we facing? We have, President Trump polling at like 80%, set to win like, 320 plus delegates in the election. And, they might try to say, oh, he won so much. He won so completely that it must have been stolen. And that might be their play. They might say, hey, Trump won way too much. Okay, because we are going to win. We're going to flood, okay, the voting rolls. It's going to happen, and everybody wants it. The media is over. Mainstream media is over. The people who got the shots that are living on CNN are really, sadly, dealing with the long COVID, the brain fog, the inability to even deal with reality. And so, it's very interesting when we look at how we've all kind of been mushed together, the people who refuse the shots, all of the people who have expertise in different things, whether it is in the medical industry, the political realm, the social media, truth telling, all of it. It's like we've all been put together in this same place where we're kind of the team now. We're all together because we're all here because we're all still here. We're all still here, able to do this fight. Whereas you're seeing that the other people supporting globalism are kind of dropping dead, in the tens of hundreds, and it's sad, but it's real. We had Rick Grinnell showing up on CPAC today and the International Forum, and he said, these are three things that I would say. One is we don't need the legacy media anymore. Rick Grinnell, he was, of course, part of President Trump's defense intelligence team. And he will probably be back in 2024. He said also that the public is much more educated now about the administrative state. As they weaponized the administrative state so hard, people are just done. Even watching CNN, they're just like watching Trump get prosecuted, watching all this kangaroo courts. They're mostly awakened. And the ones that aren't are maybe not, don't have a lot of joie de vivre. They maybe not long for this world. I mean, I pray for everybody to get healed, but we're looking at the effects of the shots and what it's doing to the population that they needed, right? What are they counting on? They're counting on the invasion population that don't have to get the shots and who they're bringing in tens of thousands and millions. We've got that woman Kelly Wong out in San Francisco, just appointed to the election board in San Francisco, a non-national from China, a Chinese national, CCPer, put on the board of the San Francisco election committee. It's illegal. It's treasonous. It is not legal. But they're doing it, right? They're doing it hoping that people won't stop it. Stop it, people in San Francisco. It's your job. You're there. If you're in San Francisco, it is your job to stop this immediately. Okay? We had Biden going out there yesterday, barely able to speak before he got on the plane, goes out there. We don't know what he's saying. He's meeting with Newsom and Pelosi, I'm sure, and they're working a deal for him getting removed. Are you going to protect my family? Are you going to protect me? Are you going to hide all of my massive amounts of treasonous crimes? Will we put Newsom on the ticket? We'll see. We'll see, because Newsom is still doing everything awful in California. People are leaving in the tens of hundreds of thousands. They've lost $1 trillion in revenue in California, and people are moving across the country, Florida, Texas, everywhere, to get out of there. And what are they saying? Oh, now we wanted to be able to give you water this year, as we've had record amounts of water this winter, and they're saying no, they're just flushing it all out to the sea instead of saving that rainwater to be able to give to the agricultural community. It just continues to go on. And so basically I'm gonna cover a couple more things here about the international showing there at CPAC today, and then I'm going to move on to the natural asset corporations land easements issue. And so we had Gordon Chang, and he's just great. He's a great Asia specialist who has written so many books, and he did a great job interviewing I think it was Jai Liba from Japan, from the Japanese government, who they hosted the first international CPAC back in 2017. And now Rahm Emanuel, I don't think a lot of people realize this, but Rahm Emanuel never let a good crisis go to waste. Emanuel, with his brother who runs the major PR firm for Hollywood stars out there, in Hollywood, and his other brother, I won't get into it, but Rahm Emanuel is now the U.S. ambassador to Japan. It's ridiculous on its face, but the former Chicago mayor basically had stayed he kind of stayed kind of quiet until Abe was assassinated. Abe was assassinated, remember that? And after Abe was assassinated, Rahm Emanuel ramped it up and tried to push hugely all of the woke Biden but UN policies regarding LGBTQ, stuff about trans kids, all this baloney about trying to push this medicalization of children, and all of it with the gender confusion crap. And that's what he had to say. Jai Liba, he said, this is criminal, and we're, we see what's going on. We need to stop it. And, it's so interesting to see. I put in yesterday, or my last video, about Ned Price, right? And him being put in as deputy ambassador to the UN, and his massive stuff around the woke LGBTQ agenda. He's in there. He's being put in there to fully push this forward as quickly as possible. They know their time is short. It's like, Satan comes knowing his time is short. Yeah, that's exactly it. The time is short. They know if they have to push as much of this as quickly as possible. So it's so great that all these international leaders are meeting in D.C. today, outside of our deep state White House capture, and getting together. You had representatives there from Argentina representing Milei, who is taking a literal, chainsaw to all the policies in Argentina to make it a populist country. They're cutting funding to every globalist tranches in the states in Argentina, cutting all the funding to everything that was being funded by globalist forces. And they're basically saying that we have this little bit of trouble. We have Paraguay and Uruguay there that is siding in a populist realm, but they have huge infiltration through Hezbollah and Hamas there in Latin America. They're saying Iran, Hamas, and Hezbollah are very active. That Argentina wanted to point out that Bolivia, and this is, again gets to Kamala Harris and her big visit to Bolivia, that they have signed a huge memorandum with Iran. Okay, and this basically has allowed for Hezbollah to get into Bolivia. They had 2 bombings in Argentina from Hezbollah, and they're saying very much active in Brazil and Uruguay, and that this is huge as they watch huge amounts of Hezbollah invaders coming up to the United States and coming across the border. And so very important to understand. I believe this is called PPC, or Primeiro Presidio Capital Brazil. This is this funding organization for these radical Islamic factions there in Brazil under Lula. And of course, Lula stole it from Bolsonaro after being released from prison. And I've talked a lot about Lula on this channel, and we're at 43 minutes. But they're talking massively that we've got huge cocaine and drug production in Brazil going on under Lula, under the cartels. That it's a huge state operation, and that this is what's happening post Bolsonaro. And so, okay. So I'm going to pivot from there because we're at 43 minutes, and I'm going to just get into, for about 10 minutes, the situation of conservation easements, what this has to do with natural asset corporations. And, we had a great win back in January where the SEC refused to put natural asset corporations onto the New York Stock Exchange, and that was a win. But it was a temporary win because they're still fighting, they're still planning, they're still doing it. This is, of course, again, Ned Price's huge push getting into the UN as the deputy ambassador. and all of what they're trying to do to push this natural asset corporation situation. And the Podesta now, of course, John Podesta in charge as the new climate envoy, who has given all of our coal reserves to India, sold them. And India just won something like 200 plus new permits, or maybe, no, that might be too large. It might only have been 40 permits to build new coal plants in India, winning these auctions. They're building tons of coal plants, and they don't have scrapers. These are coal plants that just let coal fly ash go. Okay, all the crap that's in the chemtrails, if you don't have scrapers, in the US, we have the cleanest coal plants in the world. And so all you get out of there is like vapor, you get some carbon dioxide, and that's it, right? All the other plants across, China and India, it's just coal fly ash. Just, we think it's awful here with the chemtrails. Add some random coal plants, coal fly ash, adding to that. And then you get the real disgusting, gross pollution. But so there's that. Okay, that's an aside. But okay, getting into conservation easements. This is, of course, the 30 by 30 land grab that's coming out of the UN. And they've been pushing this with the natural assets corporations that I talked about several videos ago. You can go look at them, where they were trying to basically globalize our lands, our private lands here in the United States, by selling off every single living thing that exists in the United States, but also globally, where they want to have corporations be able to come in, declare themselves natural asset corporations to manage lands, okay, basically in the Western world for the World Economic Forum, for, the banksters, Vanguard, BlackRock et al. Coming in as investors, where they would police the lands and make sure that nobody could use the lands. Okay, they're monetizing things like photosynthesis. They're monetizing things like plant life. Okay, and saying that they can monetize those. Okay, and then stop Americans from using the land under threat that you are jeopardizing somebody's financial property, that they own the rights to protect this property. And if you enter or, crack a leaf, you will be, one thing is they're putting sensors across everything and reading how these plants are doing, how the forests are doing, reading how everything's doing, putting it into One Health with the United Nations, meaning that a snail has the same life quality or value as a person, more so, that you will commit crimes if you enter these lands or disturb basically they're doing futures investing, where they're selling off futures for for basically the value of these properties on how they grow and how much they contribute to all this Internet of Nature, which is becoming the new thing, the Internet of Nature, while also at the same time they're coming in we hear from Biden, and I know I'm skipping around here a bit, but we hear from Biden that now they are Biden is planning to announce on Friday some new sanctions against Russia. And this has everything to do with, I think, about $100 billion in assets that they've seized against Russia that is mostly US Treasury bonds. And so they're going to assassinate the US dollar as the world currency, okay, by doing what they just did to Trump, where you have the billionaires like O'Leary coming out and saying, I'll never do business in New York again because of what they did to Trump. Well, imagine on the world stage, if you had, frozen the assets of Russia under some sanctions for the war, okay, and Russia had already done massive future agreements on the sales of energy, okay, to China and India. They're making buku bucks right now because they had already sold futures on their natural gas and oil, knowing that the planned Ukraine war was coming, because they're all in it together, people. They're all in it together. They knew it was coming. They bought tons of futures. They sold tons of futures to China and India regarding oil and gas, that they then have been raking in the money based on the price of oil and gas going up, and those futures coming to play. And so the same thing is here with the natural asset corporations. And so if we have now Biden sell or sanction or actually turn those $100 billion of Russian assets, if they liquidate those assets and then give the money to Ukraine, that is what happened to Trump in New York on steroids, because what it means is that the world will see this as there is no security in having US Treasury bonds. If there's a conflict, they will steal it from you and liquidate it and give it to your enemy, right? And the same thing with Trump. Letitia James steals his assets, liquidates them. The same thing happens in these fines and liquidations that we haven't maybe talked about so much in the last few years, but these fines that go on to the weaponized DOJ, the people they go after, those fines, that money circles back into NGOs and lobbyists and all these organizations, these nonprofits that are fighting against Trump, fighting against America, fighting against populism, fighting for the globalists, and the money just gets into those coffers. So it's a death sentence for the USA that Biden is going into. So again, coming back to conservation servitude. So these easements, okay, 40% of the USA is owned by the government. Okay, 40% of our land, which is awful. Okay, it's awful. And basically, we're seeing about 60% of private land being attacked and eroded by conservation easements, where they're literally attacking private property, trying to get these larger tracts of land of people who have ranches, etc. Hey, you need, because they're suffering, right? They're suffering because of all the policies of the Biden and globalists and Gates et al. Buying up all the farmland, etc. They can't compete. So they're approached and said, hey, get an easement. There's a conservation easement over here for, protected land. And they're like, well, this will save you tons on taxes. And so they're like, okay, maybe I'll do that. And then they find out that, oh my God, it controls the entire way that you use your land. And so this is happening on a massive scale, conservation servitude. And basically it's allowing big, huge corporations to own what ends up being a dominant part in the property versus... sorry, I'm trying to figure out this term here. Basically, it's called servient estate. Servient estate, I'll get into it. But it's basically where they can do anything they want on your land, and it's written in the fine print of what this easement is, and it prevents the actual lands, the ranches, the farmers, from doing what they want on their properties, saying, oh, you can't do this or that based on the environment, the climate crap, all of it out of the UN. Ned Price again, deputy, ambassador to the UN, trying to push these things as quickly as possible. And so what we get is, private land trusts selling development rights to get these tax deductions. And then what happens is they find out later that it means they can't do what they want to do on their lands. They can't farm the way they have. They can't, develop certain products or meat. We know that Bill Gates is shutting down the meat industry, buying up all the meat. We know it's coming in the whole UN One Health food plan to shut down the availability of meat. And it's going on all over. And so the soft version of NACs is this situation with land easements. And so the Inflation Reduction Act there was a $20 billion to push these conservation easement contracts. So that Inflation Reduction Act, that criminal bill that they just pushed and passed last year, which is just awful, just basically a stealing of everything. The Inflation Reduction Act put $20 billion to push these conservation easement contracts forward, setting up the stage for the natural asset companies that they believed they were going to be able to get through. But because of people like you calling and protesting and getting involved, they weren't able to push it through. They said there's too much public outcry. We're going to have to push this one a little bit further down the road. So we have to absolutely keep this going. And this had to do with the USDA contracts, super involved because they woke and weaponized the USDA. And since Biden, since Biden, it's gone on steroids, obviously. I mean, it's all come in since Biden. Okay, and so now I'm just going to mention real quickly, it's at 55 minutes, so I'm going to round up. I'm going to get more into this. I saved it till the end, and now I don't have enough time because we're already at 55 minutes. But I will keep revisiting this issue because it is about protecting private property, which is the only asset we literally have left because BlackRock, Vanguard, they're buying up all the land, Gates et al., buying up all the land. So you want to protect your land. You don't want an easement. You don't want to get into any of these contracts with the federal government ever. So in Texas, they had $2 billion of a slush fund, what they called a rainy day fund, that they gave to nonprofits to go out and get conservation easements in Texas. That's $2 billion only in Texas, where they gave to these public-private partnerships working for BlackRock and Vanguard to go out through Texas to approach all of these poor people who are suffering, people who have had land grants, or people just trying to run a ranch that is like being run into the ground because they can't get their power, they can't get anything. They're in Texas, they're killing the infrastructure. And so they're like, let's put $2 billion out there in Texas and try to capture as much land as we can there with these conservation easements. Okay, giving them massive tax benefits in the short term. Okay, this doesn't go on forever. This is a short-term situation. They give you tax breaks for now. It's not guaranteed into the future. This is a short-term grab where they basically, a lot of the times it's maybe sons or daughters who maybe inherited the farm and don't really want to deal with it anymore. And they're saying, hey, get these tax breaks now, and then just, it'll come back to us in the long term. And that's what's going on. And yeah, this money from the inflammation, it is like inflammation, the Inflation Reduction Act, and a lot of gerrymandering to put all this through in the districts. So we're going to get more into it. We'll get into intrinsic exchange group through the Rockefeller Foundation, monetizing natural processes, all of it. Photosynthesis is now monetized. I mean, it's insane, and we know it's insane. They're trying to steal the air you breathe. They're trying to literally steal your breath out of your mouth. They're that corrupt and that evil. And so we can never question for 1 second that these globalists will literally steal the food out of your mouth, the shirt off your back. They have no love of life. They have no love of people. And everything they do is to enrich a very, very small, I'd say 1% of 1%. And it's all a lie. The media propaganda is all a lie. The communism, all of it, the wokeism. All they want to do is steal your stuff. They want to steal everything and then basically suck on you like a battery because humans are the biggest battery on Earth. And so they want to inject you with tons of graphene, which is the hugest conductor on Earth, and superpower your batteries, that is your human body, God-given, and use that to make you the biggest battery for their intra-body nano network that they can feed on and continue to produce a simulation that they feed into our brains, into our consciousnesses, to try to take us away from what are the real issues, which are 3D real issues of our real world, which is land, family, God, community, loving each other. Okay, they want to make you think there's something else more important than that, but we know there isn't. There isn't. And so we'll keep talking about all of this. I thank you for watching, and you know, prayer waves are so essential. Praying, okay, praying for humanity to defeat a cartel Babylon. And I would say pray for Julian Assange and freeing Julian Assange. And I would say call 202-225, is it 205? No. 202-224-3121 for your Senate. I think that might be more important. We need Julian Assange freed, and we need to drop the charges, and we need for him to go either to Italy or Australia and to finally get his freedom once again, because you know, this is the threat. This is what they're saying. Even though Navalny is dead, right? You can get Assange per HRC. Why not just drone strike him, right? And Pompeo. Why not gonzo him, right? Like Ukraine. No. Assange needs to be freed. And so I would love to hear Trump say that he is going to pardon Julian Assange. So that is it. Thank you so much for watching. You are free. Thanks for supporting the channel. If you felt that you got something here that maybe you didn't get somewhere else and you want to support the channel, you keep me going. And so I'm so appreciative. There's ways to support the channel below. You are free. I'll see you next time.